Hello and welcome to the Basketball Addicts podcast, the one podcast in the world where you answer the question that everybody wants to know is not how can you hate from outside the finals, but how can you hate from outside the draft when you can't even get in? I'm not going to do the voice because I'm kind of tired, but that's besides the point.
Yeah.
So, like I said, once again, it's like one of my favorite series that we do is where we, I give Jason the keys, he becomes GM, and he drafts as he sees fit. He drafts the best prospect at each position. He goes 1 through 58, and we get to learn a lot. It's so informative. Jason does such a great job on this. If you listened last year, we predicted majority of these picks that came out, questioned some of the ones, and was like, do these guys really know what they're talking about? Or did we pick the better, or did they pick better? It's still yet to be seen in most of those cases.
Yeah.
But for one thing for sure, we do know that Josh Primo is a bust. Go ahead.
I mean, that guy wasn't anywhere in my big board top 30. That was a really bad draft pick. I don't know what the Spurs were doing. Yeah, I mean...
Sometimes you're too smart for your own good.
Yeah, literally, because the Spurs are really smart as an organization. They just can't seem to draft well. But we're going to fix that today. That's the goal here, man. It's be more right than everybody else. I don't care about trying to read the tea leaves and actually predict who's going to get drafted where. I want to be able to look back and say I made the right pick and was right more than the people that were actually making the draft picks, so that you guys can come back and listen and be like, man, I really want to listen to that guy talk about the NBA draft because he's right all the time. That's the goal here, man. We're breaking down walls. We're here to give you guys the best NBA draft breakdown. We already have the big board top 30. I got about like 85 guys on the big board, so plenty on the draft. So yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun. It's gonna be a good ride, and I'm excited to be more right than everybody else.
So we also have about 2 other lists we're going through as well. So we have Jason's list. We also have the NBA's consensus mock draft, which only goes 1 through 14. And then I also found a couple bloggers who also have a mock draft. They go 1 through 30. So we'll kind of be comparing those 3 lists together and just seeing like who really came out on top between the 3 of those lists. Yeah. So I hope you're ready for this ride.
Yes, sir. This is going to be a fun one. I'm excited. Every single pick has been thought about very strategically. Even like the 40th pick, the 50th pick, all of them have been really thought through. So I'm really excited to get this started. All right. Well,
alrighty.
With that, we're going to start first things first with the number 1 pick, the Orlando Magic, man. I mean, the number 1 guy on my big board, and I'm going to stick to my big board here with the number 1 pick. I believe you should choose the best player available, no matter what position it is. When you have a team that doesn't have anybody on it, that's like going to be an all-star one day, or like I feel really confident about it. The only one that could be close is Cole Anthony. To that, and maybe Franz is a borderline guy. So I'd go in my number 1 guy on my board, and that's Jabari Smith Jr. 6'10", freshman from Auburn, freak of nature, defends the lights out. I mean, the guy is so gifted athletically, laterally and vertically. It's really special. And you pair those athletic gifts with defensive talent and want to and intensity, you get a great defender. This is a special guy defensively, and he's a special shot creator for himself. All levels of the floor, I really think his mid-range shot creation is the second best in the draft behind Paulo. It gets really underrated. He has a lot of tough shots that are going to translate to the NBA. Shoots 42% from the three-point line. Is going to be a perimeter shot creator for himself. And all he's got to do is tighten up the handle. That's the only thing that he needs to do to get better. But he reminds me a lot of Paul George, man. The impact that Paul George has on the floor is a two-way talent, and he scores from similar spots on the floor. And, I really love this guy. This guy is the number 1 guy, and he's special. Special.
Yeah. So I'm not even going to go through it because NBA says, Jason, you're correct.
Yep.
Also, the blogger says, Jason, you're correct. They say that Jabari Smith Jr. should go number 1 to the Orlando Magic.
Yeah.
So the scout defense to become the scouting for Jabari Smith, just quick little description that they have here. He says has the size and length and picture perfect shot to become an elite scorer and the versatility of a two-way star. Bloggers see him the same way. They say he's a elite what to say, at least shooting and defensive upside, plays in this league on any team within any ecosystem. They're not worried about his handle and limited ability to create space in a one-on-one situation or his finishing ability. And he just turned 19, so he has a lot of upside.
Yeah. Yeah, he checks so many boxes, man. It's a 2-guard that's 6'10". That's basically what he is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with everything they said. So we're going to transition here to number 2 pick. This is a really interesting decision because there's 3 guys on the board that you can go with here. The number 1-2 guy on my big board, and I view Jabari Smith and Jaden Ivey as in their own tier, the draft prospects wise, and you don't have to rush to get the perfect guy to be the perfect fit on your team and like fill gaps when you have a guy left on the board that can become a superstar like Jaden Ivey. And that, what I'm saying by that is you don't have to rush to put Chet Holmgren at the center position to really be like, okay, these guys are going to pair really well with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Josh Giddey, and they're going to run pick and rolls together and all those type of things. Yeah, that type of thing is nice, but when there's a greater prospect by a lot on the board, I'm going to choose the greater prospect. I brought up this metaphor before is, I've heard NBA draft, somebody asked an NBA draft guy and GM, if he had Kobe, would he choose Yao Ming or T-Mac? And he said he would choose Yao Ming because of fit. And that's just stupid because, you choose the better player. And this is one of those picks for me, and this is the reason behind choosing Jaden Ivey. I mean, Jaden Ivey is my best comparison for him is his body mechanics and the way his body moves and his athletic gifts are like an identical clone of Russell Westbrook. About the same height. They are both really bulky. Jaden Ivey's going to put on more muscle. He looks like he could have Russell Westbrook's just physical, muscular density. Athletic as all get out. So gifted. Speed, quickness, first step. I mean, guys like this that are so gifted athletically don't even have to have an amazing handle to blow by anybody. The more athletic you are, the less skilled you have to be great. And the special thing about him and why he is so ridiculously highly touted for me is, I compare him to Russell Westbrook in that sense, and the passing ability. He definitely shows a lot of flashes of making good passes. He shows the same kind of dynamic that you would have seen Russell Westbrook in college. Both of these guys were 2 guards in college because Russell Westbrook had Darren Collinson on his team as a point guard. And what you see when they drive the rim, the defense collapses and he makes good passes out. Right? That's very translatable to the NBA, and I feel like he does that at a very high level. And that's the kind of dynamic that you have from the guard position in the NBA. When there's so much spacing, there's so many three-point shooters everywhere, that's really going to be a good fit. And the reason why Jaden Ivey is, if you had to say, man, Russell Westbrook would be so amazing, I understand, Jason, why you would have him number 2. You're not understanding, because this guy is a perimeter shot creator for himself from deep 3-point range. It's just not super polished yet. Mm-hmm. That's where things get ridiculous. And I like Chet. I like Pablo. But a guy like that could be a top 3 player in the NBA or just the best player in the NBA. Because if you imagined a guy having Dame's perimeter shot creation with Russell Westbrook's body, that's a demigod, right? That's what that is. Okay. So yeah, that's where things can become special for him. The only things that really are negative on him that I see is his basketball IQ really needs time to develop because he doesn't have situational awareness. It's kind of like Russell Westbrook where, let's say there's 3 minutes in the left in the game, you're down by 5. And he might chuck up a deep contested 3 in the first 5 seconds from the shot clock, and you might be thinking to yourself, man, that's not the right point in time to do those type of things. So, his basketball IQ is going to need time to develop, but I can develop a mental thing. You can't just develop the athletic gifts, the gifts he has, and you have to understand when you have prospects, you have to visualize them in the NBA with NBA spacing. And this is a guy with NBA spacing. It's just dynamite. Some people compare him to Ja Morant. I could see the athletic gifts comparison, but Ja Morant was a 10 assist guy coming out of college. He was a special passer, too, so he's not that level of a guy, passing-wise. Athletically, though, it's comparable. He's D. Wade, Russell Westbrook, Ja Morant in that tier, and I just can't pass on a talent like that.
Well, NBA disagrees. They go with the perfect fit, and they go with Chet Holmgren. Mm-hmm. And let me see what the bloggers say here. The bloggers also go with Chet Holmgren to the Oklahoma City Thunder.
All right.
Yeah, they say his length and size make him an elite shot blocker on defense, but his skinny frame could hurt him against larger post players.
Yeah. I guess my worry with him is more so the inability to do his shot creation thing against 6'8", 6'9" athletic players that I've seen him have issues with. If you want to see tape of it, go watch him play against Memphis in March Madness and have a really poor showing against NBA length and athleticism.
Yeah.
Well, gonna go ahead, transition to the next pick here. Houston, since, after Jaden Ivey's gone, now the crop of guys is much less because two guys in the top two can be top 5 players in the NBA. So it's pretty special. So the rest of the guys aren't on that level. So then if the number 4 guy on my big board is Chet, number 3 is Paolo, but it's not a huge enough difference for me not to choose Chet here because of fit. Because when you have KCP and Jalen Green, man, having a guy who can space the floor, a guy that has all-star potential if he plays
KPJ.
KPJ. Thank you for always fixing that. A guy that can space the floor for these guards, be a lob for these guards, be a good passer on the team. Has all-star potential in the mid-post, can be an okay shot blocker at the rim. I view him as an above-average center athlete, nothing overly special. Those type of things make a special offense because fit because I had Jalen Green as the number 1 prospect last year. And the reason why I have him as the number 1 prospect is because of athletic gifts. And we're having 5 out, which is 5 players out of the paint, being able to do that and have Jalen Green, that's ridiculous. I mean, just imagine D. Wade with a bunch of spacing at the rim. And you'd be like, oh, yeah, what are we going to do? Yeah. That's the kind of dynamics that Chet can bring, and not every center can bring that. Because in 4 years, he's probably going to be the best center shooting the 3-point shot in the league, or him and Cat. I mean, Cat shoots like 40%, and I wouldn't be surprised if Chet shoots that. He's going to be that lethal with the shot at the 3-point line. So, and he has mid-post potential because of his shot and his handle. Even though he doesn't do it a ton at college, if he does that, it's going to unlock his game because he has an amazing shot. No matter what has happened, he's always been 7 foot. He has a good handle. I feel like that's the area that he could use to become an all-star, a perennial all-star, but he just didn't do it enough. But, I would choose Chet here at 3.
And the NBA disagrees.
Right.
They have Paolo Banchero here.
Okay.
And let's see, bloggers. Yeah, they also disagree. So it says here that his size and athletic ability make him a perfect fit in today's NBA, should be able to contribute right away and eventually progress into a perennial all-star.
True.
Paolo Banchero.
Yeah, I agree with those things. He's really good. He's really gifted offensively, basketball IQ, scoring IQ wise. It's a good transition to my next pick because I have the Sacramento Kings choosing him at 4. Yeah, for me, man, 6'10", and the special thing about him is 250, and it's 250 of muscle. And you know what I mean? That guy's probably going to be in 4 years 6'10", 265, 270, and just be rocked up. And whenever he decides to go to the rim, people move. Like, it's a bull. That's his special gifts, and that's something he's always going to have because strength doesn't age, man. Like, that's something that's going to stick with him all throughout his career. He's kind of like athletically like Melo, where he's not a great athlete or above average athlete, but he's just good enough to be a good scorer and be athletic enough for this first 8 to 10 years, and might decline after that. But size, 6'10". He's a small forward, skill, and a 6'10" body. He really reminds me of a 6'10" Paul Pierce in the way he plays. He's the best mid-range footwork in the draft. Probably the highest scoring basketball IQ in the draft, or up there. He really understands how to score the basketball. He's definitely an improving passer. He's an above-average passer. He makes a lot of good decisions. It's not like he's going to be running a ton of pick and rolls and be a great decision maker like that. But, a lot of people worry about his defense, but the thing you can't teach is having a guy another 6'10" guy at the rim. So even though he might not be a defensive stopper, you're still going to have extra size on your team. So yeah, I'm going with Paulo here.
Okay. Well, NBA disagrees, and so does the bloggers. They have number 4, Jaden Ivey. Ultra athletic guard in the mold of Ja Morant. He can create his own shot with a quick first step. Will need to improve defensively to become elite.
Still, yeah, who's writing that? How about the guy developing his perimeter shot, making the greatest athletic, dynamic to perimeter shooter of all time? Yeah. You thought Dame coming down with his athleticism down the lane was special. I mean, dear goodness. If with all the spacing that a deep three-point shooter can provide for his team, if that ever happens, this guy be ridiculous. Defense is not the number one thing he needs to work on. I completely disagree. Yeah. You can't expect. Not most 19-year-olds don't love playing defense. You know what I mean? It's rare, but it's there.
Especially Scotty
Barnes, Jabari Smith, Jeremy Sohan. A little bit of a teaser for later in the draft.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and transition to the next pick, and you're not going to find anybody that has a guy like this because, I really, truly believe in this guy. He's the most underrated player in the draft, Nicola Jovich. 6'11", 7-foot wingspan. It's kind of funny in a draft full of guys that have more skill than their position says. For some reason, 2+2 is an equaling 4 on a guy who's basically has combo guard skill at 6'11", and I'm not exaggerating that. It's crazy. I see him run. Everything he does in his league in Serbia really translates to the NBA. I've seen him come off ball as the guy actually running off screens, shooting. He shoots 35% from the three-point line. He does a really good job of that. He really understands running pick and rolls as the guard, which is freaky. He really makes good decisions out of them. By far the best passer at the power forward position. It's not even close. He's special passing wise, power forward wise. You could even just call him a small forward or shooting guard, whatever you want to call him. He's special. And perimeter shot creation for himself, that's a very invaluable skill at 6'11" that if he's able to do in the NBA, nobody's going to be able to stop because of height, right? He might not be the greatest athlete ever, but I think his athleticism is getting overrated a little bit because people aren't factoring in size. Size is what you should be factoring into this guy because 6'11". So, he's really got a nasty turnaround one-legged jumper that he pulls basically anywhere in the mid-range that is really tough to stop. His go-to move, and it's unblockable because of at his height. You just can't do anything with it. He has a good finishing package because of height. You just can't do anything with it. And, I would challenge you to go look up Hedo Turkoglu. And, when the Orlando Magic and Dwight Howard went in their NBA title run, he was the second best player. 18, 6, and 6. 6'10", and if you watch him play, you're like, dear goodness, he is so slow. He moves like syrup down a tree. It's terrible. But he's skilled, right? He's running pick and rolls. He's making good decisions out of the pick and rolls. He's a good passer. He can come off ball. He can shot create for himself. That is similar to this guy, but he's taller and a little more athletically gifted and more developed at his age. So, it's basically like Hedo 2.0, and his potential is ridiculously high because of height, and height.
Well, And the NBA disagrees once again. They have Keegan Murray going number 5. It says good decision maker with the intelligence and athleticism to become a reliable defender on either big men or wings. Has steady jump shot that should improve with time. And let's see what bloggers say. And the bloggers, surprisingly, differ from the NBA. The first 4 completely the same. Bloggers have Benedict Mathurin going to the Detroit Pistons.
I could see that. He's a 6th guy on my big board. He would be 5 if it wasn't for Nikola Jovich, so I could definitely see the fitting. He'd be a good fit in Detroit.
And little side note about Nikola Jovich. I would like to see him go to Denver, honestly, just so they could be like the Joker and the Jover. No? Okay.
They have the 21st pick in the draft. 21st pick.
Ooh, he might fall.
If he does, and he's in mock drafts in 20s. If he does, that would be crazy. I would lose my stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
The Joker and the Jover.
Yeah. Deadly combo.
I'll stop.
Yeah.
I'll stop.
Can't stop, won't stop.
Maybe they'll call him the Job. I don't know what they'll call it.
The Jovic
Maybe the twins.
brothers. The Serbian duo.
That could be his twin. The Serbian duo, something.
Serbian national team. Watch out in 4 years. Dear goodness.
Right.
That's gonna be a tough matchup.
That will be a tough matchup. I don't know. I don't know what they'll call him. Anyway.
All right. So we're
the Joker.
Gonna go ahead and transition to the next pick, and Indiana Pacers. There's probably gonna be trades happening to this team, but it's kind of like they have every position filled. If you just disregard trades, they have Malcolm Brogdon, they got Tyrese Halliburton, Buddy Hield, Chris Duarte, Miles Turner, you know what I mean, and TJ Warren. And the only gap that's on their team that I can 100% know that if I fill, that even if they make a trade, it's still going to be needed there, and that's the small forward position. And the small forward position, number 7 guy on my big board, and the number 1 small forward in the draft for me is Tori Eason. 6'8", 7'2" wingspan, sophomore from LSU, special athlete at 6'8". I mean, he's a ridiculous defender. He plays with intensity. I love intensity. I love intense players because it usually means they're workers. It usually means they love basketball. It's hard to be an intense guy and not actually love the sport. So I really like that about players, and he's one of those guys. He also has perimeter shot creation for himself. It's pretty special traits. There's definitely some mid-range shot creation for himself. There's a couple moves and a really reliable spin move that he has going to the rim. And it's just, there's so many parameters of small forwards that I look for. I'm a really big believer in height and athletic gifts. And when you're 6'8", 7'2", and you have athletic gifts, and you can shoot 36% from the three-point line, and you have a handle, and you have shot creation for himself, that's a lot of traits of a lot of all-star small forwards. Now, he's not 100% there yet, skill-wise, but there's definitely a lot to go off of, where it makes me think that Tori Eason would be a good pick there, and they have nobody else on that team who can guard other than Miles Turner. So having another guy that can defend, because he's a really special defender, probably top 5 defender in the draft, around 4 or 5. And, I would go with Tori Eason here. He's the right fit.
And the NBA, once again, disagrees. For number 6, they have Shaedon Sharpe. Yeah, the guy who sat out the entire freshman year. That's what they have going number 6. So, here's why. Athletic wing who can make a difference on both ends with finishes around the rim and a reliable jump shot. Of course, sat his freshman year at Kentucky, so the year layoff could affect his transition.
Yeah.
Let's see what the bloggers say. The bloggers have Keegan Murray going number 6.
So they have a similar mind frame of putting a small forward in there. I could see it if you have him as their number 1 small forward, but I personally don't think he's the number 1 small forward in the draft. I think he's very overrated. He's on my 13 on my big board, so I would not pull the trigger here. I believe in Tori Eason more, for sure. He was just...
Okay.
I mean, when you're the 6th man on your team and you're averaging 16 points per game, I would say you're pretty special.
Right, yeah.
just because Keegan Murray got all those minutes and volume scoring and has all those stats, stats don't mean anything from a college player. Tell me how good of an NBA player JJ Redick is. Tell me how there's like a gazillion guys that were special in college. Yes, there's a gazillion of those guys, man, that's special in college, but doesn't translate because the NBA is just not like college. It's nothing like it. Mm-hmm. So, I'm going Tori Eason here, man. That's my guy.
Anthony Bennett.
He wasn't a great college player. No. I think it was like...
He went number 1.
Yeah, because the Cavs sucked at drafting. Hey, hire me.
Right.
All right. Go ahead and transition to the next pick. And the next pick is a guy that can do two things at once for you for the Portland Trail Blazers, because it's a conversation of, man, we really want to win right now. Or if it's Dame, and we might like refill the cap and maybe trade Anthony Simmons and some picks and try to rebuild, or go to the future and we'll trade Dame. Like, nobody knows what they're gonna do, even though I think they should trade Dame. So, they have Anthony Simmons at the point guard. They have Dame at the point guard, and I'm going to choose a 2 guard, the number 6 guy on my big board, and that's Bennedict Mathurin. Man's a good 3-point shooter, 38% from the 3-point line, has athletic gifts, really, really athletic 2 guard. Number 1 2 guard in my big board because I have you Jaden Ivey as a point guard. And just so special at one, operating a pick and roll. He's the second best 2 guard passer in the draft. He's really gifted at it, and he really can run pick and rolls well. Good defender, good finisher around the rim. Has no mid range game whatsoever. But I really envision this guy being an 18-5 guy, moving in the forward, 18-4, just being a really good 2 guard in the NBA, and being an efficient guy. So and he's ready to do it right now too, because he's going to be a starting 2 guard day 1. They got BJ Boston, who's probably they're going to be their small forward moving forward in the future anyway. So I'm going Bennedict Mathurin here.
And that's number 7, correct?
Yes.
And the NBA agrees.
Wow.
They had Bennedict Mathurin going number 7. It says a willing shooter who established himself as one of the nation's best shooters off the catch. His skill sets to translate well to the NBA, where spacing should help him get a shot.
Yeah.
And bloggers say Dyson Daniels to Portland.
Do they know basketball? They got Anthony Simmons on the team.
Yeah, they say Dyson Daniels.
The man dropped like 50 in a game, right?
Yeah, didn't he? Yeah, I think he did. Yeah.
The amount of stupidness coming from that pick is just ridiculous. You know what we're going to do? Hey, yeah, you, GM, you know what? I have a great idea. Great idea. This is the best idea I've ever had in my whole entire life. Let's have 3 point guards be the 3 best players in my team. I like where you're going.
Then you start looking like Timberwolves.
I like where you're going. Exactly. I like where you're going. Oh, my goodness. That was one of the stupidest things ever, too. Yeah, we're just going to wait on Ricky Rubio for 2 years, and, it's not like we could just sign a free agent point guard. We might as well just draft Johnny Flynn with the lottery pick as well for 2 years. Like, dude.
Right.
Neither one of them were Steph Curry. Minnesota Timberwolves. Terrible organization. They just have number 1 picks on the team right now. That makes them look good. Mm-hmm. We're going to fix that in the mock draft. So if you're a Minnesota Timberwolves fan, I got all the answers. I really feel like I did the Minnesota Timberwolves justice. So stay tuned.
Gotcha.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and transition to the number 8 pick and to the number 16 guy on my big board. And you're going to reach for fit here when you have absolutely everything else on your team. You have Jonas Valanciunas, Jackson Hayes at the center position. You have Zion, Trey Murphy Jr. at power forward, or he's a small forward too. Like, he's a 6'9" lanky 3-and-D guy that they drafted last year in the draft. You got Brandon Ingram. You got what's that guy from Alabama? He was in the draft last year, Herb Jones. I was also high on Herb Jones too coming out of the draft. I had him I thought he would be a good 3-and-D player as well. And you have CJ McCollum. So all those things are non-point guards. Like, all you need is a point guard, and then this team works. And I'm going to choose the number one point guard left on my big board, even if it's a little bit of a reach. That guy is Ty Washington. Ty Washington, smooth operator. He had 17 assists in the game. Like, he's a really good passer. He has really good basketball IQ, really can manipulate the basketball floor to his advantages. He's not an overly overwhelming shot creator for himself, but what he does do is play a very efficient brand of the point guard position where he can come off the pick and roll and he can hit the three. He shoots very well. He's mid-30s, the 35, 34, 36% from the three-point line. He does that really well. He can get in the mid-range, has a really solid pull-up from the elbow that is butter. His pull-up jump shot in the mid-range is really, really good. And he has a good finishing package, 6'3", 6'8" wingspan from Kentucky. He has a really good finishing patches. He's one of those smooth operators. And, it fits. They need a high basketball IQ guy that can lower turnovers and be a good fit on the team and just be a point guard and fill in the position and fill in their weaknesses. Because CJ McCollum's not a starting point guard on a good team. It just doesn't work like that. Because they'll have a gazillion turnovers. They'll be worse than the Boston Celtics. So, yeah, I'm going with the Pelicans drafting Ty.
NBA disagrees. They say that they should go Dyson Daniels.
If that's no one point guard on your board, then I can understand it. But I don't have him number one left on the board. Point guard position.
So, Australian playmaker who, like fellow countryman Josh Giddey, is an above-average passer with court vision and desire to facilitate for teammates, lockdown defender at the other end, and the bloggers say Shaedon Sharpe going number 8.
If it's a non-point guard, I don't care if you get God himself. It's going to be a D. You have too many players at other positions. You're trying to win right now. CJ McCollum's not getting any younger. No. It's a point guard. If it's not a point guard, then Dan Gil. What's his last? His last name's Griffin. Dan Griffin, Brian Griffin, Bob Griffin. David Griffin? David Griffin needs fired.
David Griffin.
Yeah. If he doesn't draft a point guard, he needs to get fired.
Or, you could have just been smart and got Lonzo for the low.
Oh, yeah. Talk about a decision you probably want back. Dear goodness. He would fit so perfectly on that team.
All you have to do is just keep him. Just keep him. So all you have to do is just keep him. Just
give him 81.
Pay him what he wanted to be paid. Keep
$81 million. Just
that's all.
That's pretty cheap for Lonzo Ball.
Yeah. Listen. Come on now.
Yeah.
You probably could have gave him $80 million. And he was like, "You matched it. I'll take it."
Stupid.
$80 million and 1 penny.
Deal.
Did you? Right? Did you try?
Stupid, man. Stupid is, stupid does, sir. Stupid is, stupid does.
Then you would need a point guard in the draft.
Yeah. Dumbs, I swear. All right. With the next pick, we got the San Antonio Spurs up, and, they've been screwing up a lot of drafts lately. They haven't really made a good pick since DeJounte Murray. It's been a while. Since I had a good pick. So we're going to fix that today. Number 8 guy on my big board, the top guy left on my big board, is somebody I love a lot. Orlando Robinson. I mean, the guy is 6'11", 7'4" wingspan, a junior from Fresno State. I disagree with everybody that has him a lot lower in the draft. You know what I mean? And I think his special is he's the best post player in the draft, best footwork at the post in the draft. Sure, it's really special. Okay, it's like double on site off the catch. Okay, that's really cool, Jason. A good post guy to the Spurs. I could see it, but it's a little high. Okay. Well, what about if I told you he's a mid-range shot creator for himself and a mid-post dynamic player because of his handle? Now, I've seen so many top-tier power forwards and centers put people in the mid-post and say, hey, I'm either going to hit this shot over you because I can shoot it, or I'm going to put this ball on the ground and handle and get past you with either handle skill or great athletic gifts. and he has great handle skill. He doesn't have great athletic gifts. He's going to be an average center athlete for his career. But where we're going with there is, okay, that's pretty nice, Jason. I could see where you're going with the 8th pick. What if I told you he shoots 35% for the 3-point line? Oh, so now you can pick and pop. Now you have more versatility. Okay, Jason, I could see where you're going from the 8th pick. Okay, what if I told you he flashes his perimeter shot ratio for himself and actually has a handle? That's where things get special. There's just so many times, man, where he just crossover pull. I'm like, what? A center's not supposed to do that. A guy that's, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, because the NBA is two things, man. I'm a big believer in athleticism and size. Big, really big. I really truly believe in it. Athleticism, size is the keys to the NBA. Or you have to be ridiculously skilled and have some size to overcome. And he's 6'11". He'll always be tall. He's not going to shrink. And he's always going to be so ridiculously skilled. Look at LaMarcus Aldridge. Look how slow he is. Man's got concrete on his feet. But he's a winning basketball player in his time because of shooting and skill. This guy's similar to LaMarcus Aldridge. Actually, now that I think about it, he's more of a accurate comparison to him than I thought that, Rasheed Wallace was. But he's that kind of guy, Rasheed Wallace, LaMarcus Aldridge, Marcus Gasol, where they're just so ridiculously skilled that it doesn't matter that they're not great athletes. And I think he's getting a little underrated as an athlete. People are really underrating his athleticism. I mean, if you turn on the tape, you see some pretty great dunks and the fast break and stuff like that. So I think he's very underrated. He has also good lateral movement on the perimeter where I just don't think he's going to have concrete feet to where it's going to be exposed every possession. And I've just seen too many guys in recent memory be highly skilled like this and dominate. And then, some teams may not use him that way, but the San Antonio Spurs with Greg Popovich, who's had Tim Duncan, who's had LaMarcus Aldridge, who's had David Robinson, he's going to be able to use him the correct way. And this is a match made in heaven. And, if the San Antonio Spurs are listening to this podcast, listen to me. Draft him. Do something right for once. Josh Primo shouldn't have been drafted there. I get it. You have issues. But Orlando Robinson, change your team around. Be a great pairing with DeJounte Murray. Finally have a skilled center with him. So Orlando Robinson, number 9.
And the NBA disagrees. They have Johnny Davis going number 9 to the San Antonio Spurs.
Get out of here, bro. Wait. So you're saying, all right, you know what we have on our team? Yeah, we got DeJounte Murray. You know what else we have? Josh Primo. We spent a lottery pick on him. You remember that guy, Lonnie Walker? Oh, yeah, we spent a lottery pick on him, too. He's a 2 guard. We're going to add another 6'5" 2 guard to the list? I really know basketball. What? No sense.
Oh my gosh! Somebody should pop him in the head and say you should have had a V8. So Johnny Davis, a guard who likes to work in the paint. Davis has a mid-range game that could translate well to the NBA. Has shown the desire and passion to become a solid defender. And the bloggers say Jalen Duren.
I could see them putting a center here. I could see a lot of centers going here. Mark Williams, Jalen Duren. Jalen Duren doesn't seem like a Spur, though. I could see Mark Williams. I could see them being intrigued by the size and the post skill and the potential there. Jalen Duren's not overly skilled. I just don't think he's a Spur. I don't know what it is. I just don't think he's a Spur unless they view him as a raw prospect to develop. Then maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Man, it's going to be fun watching because in the draft I have two guys in the top 8 that get drafted in mock drafts in the 20s, and I'm going to be like, last year it was really fun for me for the draft because I knew Sean Bones Highland, number 15 on my big board. I'm a real big believer in him. One, go check the guy out, right? I mean, the guy's a top 15 scorer out of the rookie class, and he was drafted 26 to the Denver Nuggets. And I was like on edge every draft pick, like, who's going to get Bones? Who's going to get a real upgraded team? And the Nuggets get him. I'm like, oh, he's going to be eventually the rotational guy for Jamal Murray. Like, that's tough.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be fun. I'm going to be watching for Nicola Jovich and Orlando Robinson where they go. Because the Spurs have a pick at 20 that I think if Orlando's there, if they choose him at 8, yeah, sure, great. But, he probably is going to go in the 20s if mock drafts are correct. At number 20, if he goes to San Antonio, we'll be like, yes. We're going to be so right. Because fit could make an issue for Orlando Robinson. Because if he's like at the Charlotte Hornets where they play up-tempo and they don't post and they might not use them correctly, like, I had the same issue last year with Davion Mitchell. Davion Mitchell gets drafted to the Sacramento Kings. They have Tyrese Halliburton, De'Aaron Fox. I'm like, gosh darn it, I liked him. Really liked him out of the draft. I was like, dang it, why did he get drafted to a terrible spot? So fit's going to matter.
It's going to matter a lot.
Yeah. All right. You ready to transition to the next guy?
Yeah.
All right. Now, this is one that I've just been going back and forth so much about. It's insane. The Washington Wizards, it's hard to know if Bradley Beal is going to be there. But if he is there, I don't want to choose somebody that's not going to fit on that team and make that team better. So I'm going to pull the trigger on the 18th guy on my big board, the number one point guard left on my big board, and that's Dyson Daniels. Like people described him earlier, this is a 6'7", 6'11" guy. People compare him to Josh Giddey. I think Josh Giddey's a much more gifted passer. Josh Giddey was a really great passer coming out of the draft and more skilled, especially from the perimeter. So I don't feel like that's 100% a comparison, but he can really make good passes. He's the most gifted highlight passer in the draft where it's like he can make full court passes and stuff like that really catch your eye, but he's not like a ridiculously high basketball IQ guy. But it's not like it's a negative for him basketball IQ wise, but he's not like CP3 or something like that. But he's a good finisher at the rim. He has touch and skill that's going to translate to the next level. He has a really strong body, really bulky point guard. It's an odd build, but he's not gifted athletically. So that's something that's a little bit of a negative for him. But, he passes well, rebounds well at his size. If he has enough volume, this is a guy that could, at the top of his game, be a triple-double guy where he's not averaging triple-double for a year, but might have a few throughout the season because of size and rebounds and passing. Might not be a high scorer, but it kind of reminds me of Spencer Dinwiddie a little bit because of size and awkwardness and, the awkward finishes around the rim, even though Dinwiddie might be a better athlete. But the negative is 25% from the three-point line. Like, that's got to develop. He has no perimeter shot creation for himself. That's really got to develop. But from the Wizards, they have no point guards. And if they have Beal back, now you have a point guard, make good passes. I don't view this guy as ever being more than a 15 to 16 point per game scorer, but he can be a good passer on a team and be a good point guard. So I would choose him here because other than center position, maybe even center position, because they got Kuzma, they got KP. KP might be used as center. I don't know what they're going to do there because they got Kuz, they got Denny Avila, they got Rui Hachimura. Rui Hachimura's a power forward. Denny is 6'9" small forward. Kuz is small forward, power forward. Like, are you really going to have all those power forwards and then put KP on the team starting a power forward? I don't really know. I would probably have KP at center. You know what I mean? So they have Beal, and then you just fill in the gap there. It's Dyson Daniels.
NBA disagrees. They have AJ Griffin going number 10 to the Washington Wizards. And
I would disagree. I mean, if you are assuming Beal's going to be there, then there's no real point because Kuz is a small forward. The Danny Adavia, they spent like a really high level lottery pick on a few years ago. They probably wanted to develop him too. So AJ Griffin kind of would be a wasted pick.
Yeah. So they say one of the best scorers in the draft, thanks to an arsenal of moves and solid mid-range game. He has the wingspan and size to become a lockdown defender. And the bloggers say Tori Eason to the Washington Wizards.
Now, I think that would be too many forwards, but I love the talent. So I would think about it if he was there. Because I love the talent so much. I would really think about it. Because he's number 7 on my big board.
Right.
Yeah. All right. You ready to transition to the next pick?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is one I've gone back and forth on. And if you're like, I'm a really big board guy. I like to follow my big board. And I really value the top tier guys. And there's 3 guys on the big board that are top 3. And 2 of them are 2 guards. And I just don't believe in drafting a 2 guard when your biggest future asset is RJ Barrett. So, you have the 11th pick in the draft, and, you're a team that doesn't have any point guards left on the board. I just don't view Kennedy Chandler as a lottery pick. So, the center position and Mitchell Robinson can be upgraded. And I think Mark Williams is a special center. He's a number 11 guy on my big board. He's the 3rd highest guy left on the big board at the point in this draft. And 7'2", 7'6" wingspan, gifted athletically, vertically, and laterally. I haven't seen a guy 7'2" move laterally the way he does in a very, very, very long time. Special gifts that way. Has post potential because he not like has great footwork, but when you're just so gifted physically like he is with his height, you could really see him becoming such a dominant force inside where he could expose people. 7'2", people have to understand that's taller than Embiid. Like that's a big dude. And he's rocky as well. Like he's not a thin bull guy. No, he's like a big guy that'll put on size and become a man amongst boys. So, this is the kind of guy in the 90s that would probably be a top 3 pick in the draft because of intrigue of post play and dominance at the rim and how that was valued then. So, this is a guy that fits because, I'm drafting for Tom Thibodeau, and Tom Thibodeau is an old school defensive guy, and he fits. He plays with intensity too. Really, really intense player. I love that about him. Rebounds well, and has really good coordination for his size. Sometimes centers that tall, like Alex Len, could be uncoordinated human beings. He's just not that. So yeah, I am going Mark Williams, 11.
And the NBA disagrees.
Okay.
They have Jalen Duren going number 11.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's a center, I could see it. I would have Mark Williams above him, though.
Yeah, it says young talent with big upside.
True. A
physically gifted big man who can finish around the rim, potentially become top defender who can protect the rim and defend the pick and roll.
Mm-hmm.
And the bloggers say AJ Griffin to the New York Knicks.
Now, I could see that because they do kind of need shooting. I think that's a weakness of the Knicks, so I could see that from that aspect.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead and transition to the next one. And the next one is the 12th pick. And since I have Jaden Ivey going to the Oklahoma City Thunder at 2, now you can pull the trigger on a center, and his name is Jalen Duren. I mean, Jalen Duren is going to be a great fit with all this guard talent that I've amassed, and just going to be a lob threat for all of them, be a great screener for all of them, be a great rebounder for all of them, and be a great defender for all of them. Really reminds me a lot of DeAndre Jordan. He's from Memphis, 6'10". He really didn't put his measurements out there, but rocky, built like DeAndre Jordan physically, where it's just like gifted physically, muscles wise. Has no skill at all, so it is a developmental project skill wise, but at the very least he can be DeAndre Jordan, and as long as they get a wing that can shoot threes, in the future, this team could be really, really nice moving forward.
Well, NBA disagrees. They have number 12, Jeremy Sochan.
Mm-hmm.
His abilities on the defensive and make him a unique option. His versatility gives him the chance to contribute immediately as a positionless big man. And the bloggers say, they agree with the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, I could see them pulling the trigger on him from the defensive perspective, but he's the 19th guy on my big board. And, because I didn't choose Chet once, there's dominoes that are going to fall to change the way the outlook of the draft. But, I would even think about a 2-guard here. I think Lou Dort's overrated. I think his 17 points per game is fluff stats. I don't believe in him being a high-tier starter in the NBA. So, I don't really feel like that's set moving forward in the future. There's nobody else on that team that can score other than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, so he just has points, empty stats. Poor Lou Dort. I just ripped into him, but I would rather choose a 2-guard there. Jaylen Williams on the board. If they're doing that mock draft, I would choose Jaylen Williams to choose your 2-guard in the future. But, it is what it is. We can agree to disagree.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and transition to the next pick. And definitely the number one guy on my big board left. Really fits this team. Shaedon Sharpe. Shaedon Sharpe's here going 6'5", 6'11" wingspan. Good perimeter shot creator for himself. Flashes that high school tape. Good athlete finishing around the rim. And that's it. Doesn't have a mid-range game. He doesn't have a good passer. He's not a good defender. It's literally just that you're betting on the potential of those two traits meshing in the future, and I feel like the risk-reward ratio is worth it here. You pair him with LaMelo, and maybe you get a great score one day with LaMelo Ball, and I could see it fitting. So, high potential, high upside. I'm going Shaedon Sharpe here.
And the NBA disagrees. They have Mark Williams going here.
I could see them drafting a center. There's a lot of good centers in this draft. It's a really good shot blocking center draft. It's pretty gifted, honestly. So, yeah.
Yeah, and the description they have here is physical specimen with an absurd 9'9" standing reach and great mobility for his dimensions that allowed him to be a force around the basket on both ends for most of his sophomore season.
It's true. Very true.
And the bloggers say Johnny Davis to the Hornets.
I can see them pulling the trigger on a 2-guard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Say who's going to be it, James Bouknight or XYZ, Johnny Davis, or, my Shaedon Sharpe pick. It's going to be really interesting. All right, you ready to transition to the next pick?
Yeah.
All right. Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm doing you a favor. You're welcome. As a Cleveland Cavalier fan, I would like to put up my hands and be thanked for actually choosing making this good draft pick. I also would like to be thankful, I'm sure you're thankful too, for actually having a good head coach and a GM for once in the past decade, you know what I mean? And I'm just glad to have it. Bickerstaff's a really good coach. The GM is really good. The draft picks that he's made recently have been solid. And the development of Darius Garland and Evan Mobley have been really good. So I'm glad to be a Cleveland Cavaliers fan.
Same.
Well, more and more presents come. The number one guy on my big board, one of my personal favorites, is Jaylen Williams from Santa Clara. Number one guy on the big board left. He's number 10 on my big board, but I'm saying, as his mock draft is going, he's the top guy left. 6'5", 7'2" wingspan, and I'm just so excited about this. 18 points per game. Junior in college, 40% from the three-point line, shoots 80% from the free-throw line, which is great stats for a shooter. By far the best passer at the 2-guard position by a gazillion miles in the draft. James Harden-ish, it's really special. If this guy was a special athlete, then this guy, I would be talking generational talent here from Jaylen Williams. And what I love about him is he's not a great athlete. He's an above average or just an average athlete. But when he does, man, he's a smooth operator from basketball IQ perspective. What do you mean by that? Takes great angles, cuts defenders off, really understands footwork, really understands how to manipulate defenses at an extremely high level. He really understands how to attack the basket, how to use his body, he's just aware of everything. His basketball IQ is by far the highest at the 2-guard position, and it's point guard-ish, where it's just special in the sense of the way his footwork works. And he's got step-back threes, he's got side-step threes, he's a good three-point shooter. He plays at his pace. He doesn't let anybody speed him up. I've just seen too many point guards You know what I mean? That like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander plays at his pace. You know what I mean? Doesn't let anybody speed him up. And those guys are tough to scout coming out of the draft because I really care about athleticism, but I really believe in the way he plays and the things that I see. He plays very much like James Harden. He's just not quite as explosive as James Harden was at his peak. But it's a guy that's very developed basketball IQ-wise and why he fits for the Cavs. First things first, I'm not 100% sold that Karis LeVert's going to be healthy for the rest of his life. I mean, the guy's had a gazillion injuries, first things first. Secondly, I mean, he's got high upside, but I think Jaylen Williams has higher upside. And, also what's great for them right now is I think he's a good enough passer to be the backup point guard and the 2 guard. So he fills in 2 spots. He brings a lot of good passing when Darius Garland isn't on the floor. So I'm not expecting them to keep Colin Sexton. I'm expecting one of these point guard needy teams to pull the trigger on overpaying him and the Cavs not being able to retain Colin Sexton. So I really can see myself loving Jaylen Williams to the Cleveland Cavaliers, and this is my pick.
Well, the NBA disagrees. They have Ousmane Dieng going number 14 to the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I could see them choosing a boomer bust guy. I don't hate that.
So it says intriguing wing with great size, potential as a shot maker, and fluidity with the ball, who faced a steep learning curve in his first season playing outside of France.
Sure. Yeah.
And the bloggers say Malachi Branham.
What?
Yeah.
He's like the 25th or 26th guy on my big board. Why would he ever be in the lottery? What? That's terrible. What is going on here?
Yeah.
Bloggers.
I'll read the description. So this is Malachi Branham. If he's the Cavs' actual pick, he is more of a pick for later than pick right now. But in theory, he fits as a connective piece between the team's core pieces. Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, and Jarrett Allen. He's got the size necessary to play on the wing, can be a secondary creator off of Garland, and if his three-point shooting at Ohio State translates to the NBA, is the kind of spacer the team needs. Given time to develop, perhaps playing spot minutes in year one as Karis LeVert fills the role, he'll ideally fill in a year's time. He can be a nice complementary piece that offers skills the Cavs' lead options don't.
Terrible. This is probably written by from Ohio guy. It's probably some OHIO bias in that pick because Malachi Branham is just not the kind of athlete to be in the lottery. It's just if you're 6'5" and you're not gifted athletically or ridiculously skilled like Jaylen Williams, then I'm not thinking about. And Jaylen Williams' 7'2" wingspan is going to overcome a lot of his athletic negatives.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and transition. And, Cleveland Cavaliers listens to the true Ohio and Basketball Addicts podcast because we really know the draft more than the bloggers. Okay, cool.
Oh, also, before we continue forward, that number 14 was where the NBA mock draft ends. They only do 1 through 14, so I'm going to be strictly reading in comparison from the bloggers. So be prepared for stupidity.
Sounds like a bet. All right. The fall of Keegan Murray stops here at 15. He's the 12th guy on my big board. They need a small forward. He can really defend well, 6'8", shoots 39% for the 3-point line. I'm not a big believer in him because a post guy that does most of his work in the post at the small forward or power forward position at 6'8", it's not ridiculous to gifted athletically like Zion Williamson. Does not translate to the NBA. But he flashes like there's about 5 to 10 plays out there of him premier shot creating for himself. So there's flashes of that skill. There's flashes of him coming off ball screens and stuff like that. He is a good athlete. So he's going to be a solid small forward in the NBA. I don't think he's going to be terrible, but I don't think he's going to be as amazing as some people want to make him out to be. But I would choose Keegan Murray here, 15 for the Charlotte Hornets, and get the small forward position they need.
And bloggers disagree. They have Mark Williams going number 15 to the Charlotte Hornets.
I would be surprised if he falls out of the lottery. I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
Shocked. But if he's there, I would choose him. Thank you, please.
You're right. Yeah.
Come again, sir.
They disagree on where you draft him, but they kind of have the same idea that he needs to go to Charlotte.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny. All right.
Yep.
You ready to transition?
Yep.
Atlanta at 16. Now, this is really tough because I have AJ Griffin, the highest guy left on my big board. He's at 13, and the next guy left on the big board is Johnny Davis at 15. And the reason why I'm not choosing AJ Griffin is because they already have Kevin Huerter. They already have a guy like AJ Griffin. And Johnny Davis is a mid-range shot creator for himself. That's a different dynamic of the two-guard position. And, it fits really well with Trae Young because he scores from completely different spots on the floor from Trae Young. So I could see that pairing working, kind of like CJ McCollum and Dame, where he becomes that mid-range guy, and it gives the defense a different thing to worry about. And then Dame's coming in with the three-point shots from the volleyball line. So I could see this pairing working. There could be intrigue. I just don't think Johnny Davis is. AJ Griffin's the defender everybody thinks him to be, or the mid-range shot creator everybody, for some reason thinks he is, even though he never does it in the NBA, in the college. So, I'm going Johnny Davis, Atlanta Hawks.
Well, with the number 16th pick, the bloggers disagree. They have Jaylen Williams from Santa Clara.
10th guy on my big board. If he was there, I would run to the podium and say thank you for messing up NBA draft scouts and GMs.
Yeah.
That would be a special pairing if that actually happens. I would be like, oh my gosh, the Atlanta Hawks are going to be so special for a while. He's one of those guys, man, that's underrated, and I can't wait to see where he goes. Him, Nikola Jovich, and Orlando Robinson. I'm really excited about those guys. Those are my guys. My guys.
Yeah.
Alrighty. You ready to transition to the next guy?
Yep.
All right. The Houston Rockets, you have Chet Holmgren. You already have some spacing. By far the best player left on the board is AJ Griffin. And you choose him, 6'6", small forward, shooting guard. On the Rockets, he's probably going to be a small forward. But, gives them more spacing, more three-point shooting. He does have some chance of becoming a guy maybe like Klay Thompson, but I'm just not a huge believer in it. It's like a 0.01% chance that it actually happens. You know what I mean? But Kevin Huerter type, people underrate Kevin Huerter's shot creation for himself. Like Kevin Huerter looks a lot like AJ Griffin coming out of college. So, that type of guy here, I could see fitting. AJ Griffin.
AJ Griffin, and once again, bloggers disagree. They say Houston Rockets should draft Ousmane Deng.
I could see that. I could see them choosing a boomer bust guy. They have the ability to put picks into that kind of guy, so I could see it. But AJ Griffin probably won't last as long as this is just my draft. So, because Dyson Daniels and Ty Washington went in the lottery, some of the good players fell out of the lottery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Alrighty, you ready to transition? Well, if I'm the Chicago Bulls, I run at supersonic speed to turn in this draft pick to beat Jeremy Sohan for the Chicago Bulls. You want to talk about special defender, he's ridiculous. He guards 1 through 5. This is a Scotty Barnes. This is an Evan Mobley. This is a guy that's just so special defensively, all defense level guy, first team. Reminds me a lot of Draymond Green in the versatility and the gifts that he has defensively, whereas he has great defensive IQ, really plays angles, really understands how to be strategic. And he's not like the greatest defensive mind ever like Draymond Green, where it's ridiculous, but his gifts are insane defensively, and he plays with intensity. He understands that's his role, and he does an extremely high level. He's a good passer. He's a good rebounder. He shoots 30% from the 3-point line, so he can develop that. But for the Bulls, they're ready to win now, and now their defense could use some help. And this guy can turn them into a top 15 defense in the league, because when you pair Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, and this guy together, it's special. And now you have a guy to go guard the forwards like a Jason Tatum, like I can't think of any other forwards or guards off the top of my head where DeMar DeRozan doesn't have to guard him, or Zach LaVine doesn't have to guard him, and then now those guys can rest. Kind of like the setup the Miami Heat have had for a while, where they've had power forwards that guards the players that Jimmy Butler would usually guard, so he has time to rest defensively. And Jeremy Sohan would bring. I mean, this is a match made in heaven. If this actually happens, Chicago Bulls are really going to get a lot better, because Patrick Williams is supposed to have that role, but Jeremy Sohan is just so much better at it. Even though Patrick Williams is the 4th pick in the draft, Jeremy Sohan's a much more gifted defender, taller, all those type of things.
Yeah. Bloggers disagree. With 18, they have EJ Liddell.
I've had him there before in one of my mock drafts, so I could see it. But if Jeremy Sohan's there, I'm choosing him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty, you ready to transition?
Yeah.
All right. So the next pick, man, we got a really interesting one. He might not be, on my big board, he's 22. He might not be the top 2 guys on the board, but Minnesota Timberwolves, I said this earlier as a little bit of a teaser. I'm going to help you out. I'm going to draft guys that can defend. And Kendall Brown, 6'7", 6'11". Baylor goes back-to-back draft picks here, and he's special athletically, the most athletically gifted small forward in the draft. Really good defender. He's so athletic that he can cover his mistakes. He's just so ridiculously gifted athletically that he's a good defender, and he can sit the standstill 3, and that's what he's going to do in the NBA. And the Minnesota Timberwolves need that. You don't need any more shot creators on the team. You need guys to do their roles, and this is a good fit here.
So, bloggers disagree. They have Nicola Jovich. Why say Nicola? Nikola Yovich going 19 to the Timberwolves.
I mean, if he's there, congratulations. You just got really, really good for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Yeah, I mean, if he's there, dear goodness, I'd be so excited. Minnesota Timberwolves actually do something right for once.
Yeah.
Number 5 guy on my big board. It's a fun thing, man. Wherever those guys go, interesting right away. I'm excited. All right. Are you ready to transition to the next guy?
Yeah.
All right. So the next guy on my mock draft at 20th pick in the draft, the San Antonio Spurs select the, let me see here, the 24th guy on my big board. Not one of the top 3 guys left, but he fits into their scheme. And Osman Deng. Osman Deng's a really good passer. He's an international guy. They love international guys. 6'9", plays in the NBL, which is the league that Miller Ball played in, and Josh Giddey played in Australia. And he is a good perimeter shot creator for himself. He's not really an efficient player yet, but passing, length, perimeter shot creation, upside, he's a San Antonio Spur. Because he's not overly gifted athletically, and that just even sounds more like a San Antonio Spur. So I would go Osman Deng here for the Spurs at 20. They need a forward. They have no small forwards that you can, like Doug McDermott might be their starting small forward. That's how bad it is.
And the bloggers disagree. They have Kendall Brown going number 20 to the San Antonio Spurs.
I could see that. I could see that. I could see them doing that. I wouldn't, I just drafted him 1 pick beforehand, so it's not that big of a difference. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. So the next pick, we're going to choose Denver Nuggets 21st pick in the draft. Let me see here, 23rd guy on my big board. Really excited about this. John Butler to Denver. Now, 7-footer, shoots 37% for the 3-point line, developmental guy. They don't really need, they just don't have any gaping holes where it's like, I need X, I need Y, and I need it now. So they can sit on a guy that has upside. Really athletic. Really moves smoothly. He's built like a toothpick. He needs time to develop, but his three-point shooting and his defense and the intrigue of having two center-footers on the floor in the future is really going to be the worth the pick here. So I choose John Butler at 21.
And the bloggers disagree once again. They have Ochai Agbaji.
I could see that. I think I had him there in one of my. Oh, actually, that's pretty funny. He might be later in the draft. I'm not going to actually break the eggs on that one. I'll keep my. I'll put away the key and all that type of stuff. All right, we'll go ahead and transition to the next pick. 22nd pick in the draft. Let me see where he's at left on the big board. He's the number one player left on the big board. He's at 19. Christian Koloko, 7-foot center, 7'5" wingspan from Arizona. I mean, he's a volleyball show for him at the rim. He's a slim, ripped guy. He's really going to be a good lob threat, really going to be a good screener, really going to be a good shot blocker at the rim. And the special thing about him is fluidity and switching. Like, he can really switch. He's really gifted that way. That's why I view him so highly. And I really feel like having a long-term center for the Memphis Grizzlies past Steven Adams is going to be a good fit for the team. And just having a rotational center as well. They don't really have a great rotational center. They have a really good bench. They have really good pieces on the bench like Kyle Anderson. And having a guy like this off the bench is going to be pretty special. He's a junior, so it's not like he's like a baby-faced 7-foot center. You know what I mean? He's been around. He's been in college for a while, so I'm going Koloko here, number one guy on my big board left, Memphis Grizzlies.
And number 22, bloggers disagree. They have Dalen Terry.
Arizona shooting guard?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. He's getting a lot of hype because of two-way shooting guard, 3 and D potential. He has no skill other than that, but, you know, that's his intrigue. I probably wouldn't pull the trigger on him because I have him like in the 40s on my big board, but I could see where people are falling in love with him. Gifted athletically as well. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and transition to the next guy. The next guy on the draft on the big board, he is. Let me see here. 28, 6'7", 6'11" wingspan. EJ Liddell, power forward, Ohio State, goes here. The reason why he does a lot of things. First things first, he's a good 3-point shooter, really well. That's going to be useful off the bench for them. And they already have a 6'7" power forward in Tobias Harris. Like, he's like Tobias Harris. He has a mid-range shot creation for himself. He plays in the post, and he uses his thick body. He's kind of built like P.J. Tucker to bully people around, and, you know, he shoots 3-point shot really well. He's kind of like a poor man's Tobias Harris. So having a guy like that coming off the bench that fits and have another scorer for that team at a different position other than the guard position, the center position, could give them a different feel to their team, and I really feel like he fits what they do in Philly. So having him to back up Tobias Harris would make a lot of sense because you're already giving up things with Tobias Harris defensively, so why not give it up with his rotational piece to get the scoring that you already have?
True. So with the 23rd pick, the bloggers say Jaden Hardy should go to the Philadelphia 76ers.
I would not do that. I mean, there's no point in having another guard shot creator on that team. You have Harden and Maxey, and when there's other pieces that could fit on your team, I would choose something else. Yeah. Are we ready to transition to the next guy?
Yeah.
All right. With the next pick, 24th pick in the draft, we got the next point guard, next best point guard on the big board. And on the big board, he is, let me find him real quick, 20, the highest guy left in the draft so far in this big board, and Kennedy Chandler. 6-foot guy, really good passer, really can run the pick and roll quicker than quicker than fast, quicker than vertical gifts. 6'5" wingspan, shoots 35% from the 3-point line. So he's a good shooter. So you're going to get good spacing for Giannis. And they need a third guard ball handler or a third ball handler on that team that can make decisions at the guard position or guard / Giannis, because Giannis is the number one guy, right? He's the number one ball handler, but Drew Holiday's too. And then you think about it as like, really, is George Hill gonna bring you anything other than 3-and-D? Like, calling up a ball handler is a stretch. You know what I mean? Calling Grayson Allen a ball handler is a stretch. And having another guy that can give you just a little bit of a punch of scoring as well off the bench at the guard position is a good fit. He reminds me a lot of Patty Mills. I really feel like this is the kind of guy they need. They need another shot creator on that team. And even though he's not like a great shot creator for himself, like Patty Mills, just by playing an efficient version of the point guard position with 3-point shooting, he's going to be able to drop 8 to 10 points and give you value. So I'm going Kennedy Chandler here. I've had this guy plugged in to this spot in the mock draft the whole time. He hasn't moved because it's a pairing made in heaven.
And no surprise here, bloggers disagree. They have Justin Lewis going to the Milwaukee Bucks 24.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what else they have here. So he says, yes, this is a reach. Let's get this out of the way immediately. Marquette's Justin Lewis is solidly rated as a second-round pick, so why should the Bucks select him all the way up at 24? For one thing, the remaining prospects on the board, particularly at point guard, that are falling, don't move the needle for Milwaukee. And thanks to the Bogdanovich fiasco, the Bucks don't have a second-round pick to work with in this draft. That means this pick is the Bucks' only chance to pick up a player who could contribute in the short term, and Lewis presents that exact opportunity. Lewis is 6'7" with a 7'1" wingspan, and at 240 pounds, he appears to be a rare combination of strength and fluidity at the forward spot. He boasts a versatile offensive game, a seemingly reliable outside shot, can rebound on both ends of the court, but has the most upside on defense. Depending on his development, Lewis could become a contributor in the style of Grant Williams, Jay Crowder, or fan favorite P.J. Tucker. Given how this mock draft has shaken out, that potential is more worth the reach than anyone else on this board for the Bucks.
All right, I'm going to help you out, Chris. This is where I'm going to continue the part of the podcast. I just was talking about Kennedy Chandler, so I'm going to continue this and get through the top 30, and I'll have a countdown to make it really easy for you when you edit. It's back.
Sounds great. You did hear what the blogger said, right? The blogger didn't agree with you with the Kennedy Chandler pick.
All right, I'm going to continue talking in 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I mean, having Kennedy Chandler there for the Milwaukee Bucks is just such a perfect fit. You just can't pass on Kennedy Chandler there. So I'm going to go ahead and transition to number 25th pick in the draft. San Antonio Spurs are next in this mock. And I'm going to choose a guy I love here. Jaylen Williams. He's 6'10", 7'1" wingspan. Really great defender, special defensively. He's going to switch. He's going to be able to guard multiple people. And, the Spurs are going to really love his versatility and his passing ability and his rebounding ability. And he's such a high basketball IQ guy that I could really see him fitting in the San Antonio Spurs system. Great charge drawer, just great defender in general. He just really fits to what they want to do for the Spurs. He's a 21st guy on my big board. I'm really high because of versatility. He could be a 6'10" power forward, a 6'10" center. You know what I mean? You can rotate him in as a rotational center as well. So he's just a special body and a good mind, and I could just see them liking him. So we're going to go ahead and transition to the next pick, number 26 pick in the draft. And the Houston Rockets are going to choose the 40th guy on my big board. And they're going to take a risk here because they have the ability to take risks. And that's Patrick Baldwin, 6'10", from Pepperdine, I think. Or actually, no, Milwaukee College. Pepperdine was somebody from last year's draft. 7 foot one swing, small forward, power forward. He's really smooth, really can shot great. He has a lot of NBA moves. It's just that his stats are absolutely terrible. 25% from the three-point line, 34% field goal percentage at a lower level of basketball. So it's a boomer bust pick here, but the way he shoots, the way he shot creates for himself, the way he moves. I mean, this guy was supposed to be a top 10 pick pre-season, and I could really see why people would like him. So I'm going to go Patrick Baldwin here at 26 because the Houston Rockets, when you have all this youth, you have all this upside, you can take shots, and this is a shot in the dark. The next pick is, might not be the number one guy on my big board, but fits a need for the Miami Heat that I think they really need. They need a young developmental point guard that's on their team that they can have moving forward. And somebody I really view in that mold is a guy named Blake Wesley. Blake Wesley played at Notre Dame, 6'4", 6'9" wingspan. If this guy I think this guy should have went back to college because I really think he could have been a lottery pick if he would have been more efficient. But he's not an amazing passer, but he's a very average point guard passer. That's not really his intrigue. His intrigue is shot creation off the dribble and athletic gifts. He can really score. He can really get to the basket. He can really shot create for himself. It's just not efficient yet. It's like 30% or something like that. It's really low. But with flashes of those things, that's a young point guard that has high upside that I think the Miami Heat should take the shot on here. And, the 28th pick, the Golden State Warriors choose Jake Lariva. Now, this guy's really low on my big board. Big board, he's numbered 45, but he's 6'8" small forward from Wake Forest. He's a really good passer. Shoots the three-point shot really well, but he's really slow. So I'm like, there's just not much else he's going to do, all that type of stuff. But Golden State Warriors, where they value passing and three-point shooting on the offensive end, will be able to look past his negatives defensively. And this is a scheme fit. This is a guy that fits well in the scheme. I could see them using him. They could use another forward other than Jonathan Kuminga. And, I could really see Jake Lariva here fitting on the Golden State Warriors, a guy that passes really well. So I'm really excited about this fit. At number 29, we have Bryce Mcgowns, who's a little higher up on the big board. He is, let's see here, big board number 27, 6'6", 6'8", wingspan, shooting guard from Nebraska. He's really thin. He's gifted athletically. Shoots 25% from the 3-point line, but he shoots 83% from the 3-throw line. And if he is able to develop his 3-point shooting ability and his shot creation, he can really be special on the consistent side, and he can become an all-star. Not an all-star, but like a good shot creator for himself, a good starting shooting guard. And the reason why I'm really intrigued about him, because it's perimeter shot creation where even though he doesn't shoot efficiently, he is shot creating for himself from the deep in the volleyball line and stuff like that, where it's NBA moves. And he was the volume scorer for Nebraska, so he got to run a lot of pick and rolls and, develop his basketball IQ sides of things and passing side of things. So I could see the Memphis Grizzlies wanting him to at least be a bench piece moving forward, because 6'6", you can kind of use him as shooting guard and small forward off the bench. So it's a little bit of a versatility benefit. And then this is going to be the last pick of part 1 of this podcast. We're going to do part 1 through 30, and part 2, 31 through 58. And the last pick of this draft is a funny thing Chris brought up early was Denver choosing Ochai Agbaji, because I have him going here. This guy's ready to win now. He's very developed. Senior, 6'5", 6'10" wingspan from Kansas. Good, really, really good 3-point shooter. Can come off screens. Really good defender. Reminds me a ton of Wesley Matthews. I didn't understand the lottery hype early on, but this is the kind of guy that can really be a good fit on a winning team. And I'm excited about him. And I would go Ochai Agbaji here at number 30. I'm really excited to bring you guys the second round of this mock later. And, we really appreciate you guys listening to the podcast. And, everybody have a great day. Peace out. I'll see you next time.
But could you not hear me? My computer stopped.